The streets of Chicago had seen their fair share of violence, but no one was prepared for what lay beneath the surface. It started like any other murder case. A young woman, strangled in her apartment, no forced entry, no signs of struggle. Just another tragic case in a city that had grown numb to crime. But for Detective Michael Graves, something felt off. The victim, Amanda Cole, was a 27-year-old law student with no criminal ties, no dangerous affiliations. Her apartment showed no signs of a break-in, yet she was found lifeless, her body positioned carefully, almost ritualistically. The eerie part? A single playing card left on her nightstand, the Queen of Spades. It wasn't long before another body turned up. Then another, and another, each one posed the same way, each one with a playing card left behind. The media had a name for the killer before the police even had a suspect, the card killer. But no one knew just how deep this case would go. Detective Graves had seen his share of serial cases, but nothing like this. The victims had no direct connection. Different ages, different professions, different backgrounds. The only link was the method and the cards. The forensic team found no usable fingerprints, no DNA, no surveillance footage. It was as if the killer walked through walls. But the real horror came when they ran the victims' names through the system. Amanda Cole had filed a police report 6 months prior. The officer assigned to the case, Sergeant David Mercer. Mercer was a decorated officer, well-liked in the department, known for his leadership. He had been on the force for nearly 2 decades and had a spotless record. But Graves couldn't ignore the coincidence. He dug into Mercer's files. Dozens of closed cases, convictions based on airtight evidence, suspects who suddenly confessed despite weak cases against them. Graves had a sinking feeling. Had Mercer framed people before? Had he covered up his own crimes? Weeks passed and the body count rose. Graves worked tirelessly, but every lead led to a dead end. That was until he got a call from a retired officer, John Ackerman, who had worked with Mercer years ago. Ackerman had a story to tell, one that made Graves' blood run cold. In 2003, a series of strangulation murders plagued the city. The victims bore chilling similarities to the current case. Back then, Mercer had been one of the lead officers investigating the crimes. The case abruptly closed when a drifter named Raymond Holt was convicted. The evidence had been flimsy, based entirely on a confession Holt later recanted. Holt died in prison 2 years later, claiming he had been forced into admitting something he didn't do. Graves knew what this meant. Mercer had been killing for years. He had pinned his early crimes on an innocent man and walked away scot-free. And now he was back, bolder, more careful, but not careful enough. Determined to catch Mercer red-handed, Graves set a trap. He leaked false information to the press, suggesting the police had a suspect in custody. He knew Mercer would react. If the killer thought someone else was taking the fall, he'd either kill again to prove the police wrong, or try to silence the investigation himself. 3 nights later, another body was found. This time, Graves was ready. He had the area under surveillance. What they saw shocked them. Mercer himself, walking away from the crime scene, gloves still on, his posture calm, almost methodical. They arrested him that night, but even as they dragged him in, he smiled. A slow, knowing grin. "You think this is over?" he whispered to Graves. The words sent a chill down the detective's spine. The trial was swift. The evidence was overwhelming. The moment Mercer's files were opened, the full scope of his crimes was exposed. Dozens of wrongful convictions. Dozens of victims. He wasn't just a serial killer, he had used the badge to manipulate, to frame, to silence. But just as Graves thought it was over, something happened that changed everything. 3 months after Mercer was sentenced, another body turned up. Same method, same playing card. But Mercer was behind bars. The city had believed the nightmare was over. Graves had believed it. But as he stared at the fresh crime scene, one horrifying thought crept into his mind. Had Mercer been working alone? The precinct was in chaos. Detective Michael Graves stood frozen at the latest crime scene, the weight of the revelation pressing down on him like a vice. The playing card, another Queen of Spades, was perched delicately on the nightstand beside the latest victim, a 32-year-old nurse named Kelly Ramirez. It was identical to the ones left behind by the card killer. But there was one glaring problem. Sergeant David Mercer was locked away in a maximum security prison. The precinct was in chaos. Officers whispered in hushed tones, news crews swarmed the building, and the public, who had believed their nightmare was over, was now gripped by a renewed wave of fear. "This doesn't make sense," muttered Captain Reynolds, his voice edged with exhaustion. "We caught Mercer. The case was closed." Graves clenched his jaw. Maybe it was never closed. He knew what everyone else was thinking. Either Mercer had an accomplice or somehow someone was copying his methods with chilling precision. But there was another possibility, one that gnawed at Graves' gut like a sickness. What if Mercer had been telling the truth when he whispered, "You think this is over?" Determined to get answers, Graves requested a meeting with Mercer in prison. The warden arranged for a secure interview room, and when Mercer was finally escorted in, shackled and smirking, Graves felt a wave of unease. The man had the air of someone who had already won the game. "I was wondering when you'd come," Mercer said smoothly, settling into the chair. "Kelly Ramirez. Tragic. I hear she was strangled just like the others." Graves leaned forward. "You know damn well she was. You left that card, Mercer. You made a mistake." Mercer chuckled. "Detective, I've been sitting in this hellhole for months. How do you suppose I managed that?" Graves narrowed his eyes. Mercer wasn't lying, but he wasn't innocent either. The man radiated arrogance, as if he still had control over the entire situation. "Who's working with you?" Graves pressed. "Who's carrying on your legacy?" Mercer tilted his head, feigning curiosity. "You assume this is about a legacy? That I need a disciple?" He let out a low, amused chuckle. "Oh, Graves, you're still playing checkers while I play chess." The detective felt his stomach turn. Mercer was enjoying this far too much. "You had help," Graves said through clenched teeth. "Someone inside the department. Someone covering for you." Mercer's smirk widened. "Now you're getting warmer." Graves didn't blink. He thought back to all the closed cases, all the airtight convictions Mercer had secured. Had he always had someone feeding him information, planting evidence? If so, who? Back at the precinct, Graves called for an internal review of officers who had worked with Mercer over the years. The list was long, too long. But one name stood out: Lieutenant Paul Avery. Avery had been Mercer's partner for over a decade. He was well respected, kept a low profile, and had recently put in for early retirement, citing personal reasons. Graves wasted no time. He and his team arrived at Avery's suburban home under the cover of night, warrants in hand. But what they found inside made their blood run cold. The basement was a shrine to the killings. Crime scene photos, newspaper clippings, and, most disturbingly, a collection of playing cards pinned to a corkboard, each corresponding to a different victim. And there, in the center of it all, was something even worse. A list of names. A hit list. Some names were already crossed out: Amanda Cole, Raymond Holt, Kelly Ramirez. Others were still intact. And near the bottom, in bold letters, was a name that made Graves' heart pound. Detective Michael Graves. The sound of a gun cocking behind him sent a spike of adrenaline through his veins. "Drop your weapon." Avery's voice was calm, steady. Too steady. Graves slowly turned. Avery stood in the doorway, his service pistol trained on the detective. His expression was unreadable, but there was no mistaking the deadly intent in his eyes. "All this time," Graves murmured, "you were his partner in more ways than one." Avery let out a slow breath. "Mercer wasn't just a cop to me. He was a visionary. He understood that justice needed a guiding hand. The courts fail, the system fails. But we could make it right." Graves tightened his grip on his own gun. "You framed innocent people. You killed for the thrill of it." Avery shook his head. "I cleaned up the city." Before Graves could respond, Avery pulled the trigger. The shot rang out, but Graves had already moved. The bullet grazed his shoulder, sending a burst of pain through his arm. He fired back, hitting Avery in the leg. The corrupt officer crumpled, his gun clattering to the floor. Within seconds, backup flooded in, subduing Avery and securing the house. As Graves staggered to his feet, clutching his bleeding shoulder, he realized the horror wasn't over. Because even as Avery was dragged away in cuffs, the man smiled. "Mercer isn't done," he whispered. "Not even close." Graves' blood turned to ice. He had taken down 2 killers within the force. But what if there were more? What if Mercer's influence ran deeper than anyone had imagined? Then his phone buzzed. A new crime scene. Another victim. Another Queen of Spades. Graves swallowed hard. The nightmare wasn't over. It was only just beginning. Graves rushed to the latest crime scene, his mind racing. The victim, a local journalist, Thomas Reed, was found in his downtown apartment, strangled with surgical precision. The Queen of Spades rested on his chest, tucked under his folded hands as if mocking the detective. This wasn't just another murder. It was a message. Reed was investigating Mercer, a forensic officer told him, digging into his old cases. Seems like he was onto something. Graves' stomach churned. Whoever was continuing Mercer's work wasn't just killing at random. They were tying up loose ends. And if Reed had discovered something, it meant there was something still left to uncover. Then came the second gut punch. The security footage. "We got something," Officer Patel said, handing Graves a tablet. Building security caught a figure leaving the scene. Graves hit play, expecting a masked figure, an unidentifiable blur. Instead, his blood turned cold. The footage showed an officer walking out of the building, and Graves knew exactly who it was. The camera didn't lie. It was Captain Reynolds, the man in charge of the entire investigation. Graves' heart pounded. How deep did this go? As he turned to Patel, his mouth went dry. A single thought crashed into him like a freight train. He was standing in a department full of killers, and they knew he was onto them. Then his phone buzzed. A text message from an unknown number. "Run." If you found this story chilling and want more dark truths uncovered, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications and share your thought on the comments section below. We expose the hidden, the forgotten, and the untold. Don't miss what comes next, because sometimes the real horror isn't fiction, it's reality.